Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we are going to be talking about some gaming news, which is not good gaming news, but I did want to bring something to your attention, which seemed pretty relevant to folks on this channel, given the prevalence of the Ultimate General and the Ultimate Admiral games on this channel. Game Labs, the developer behind Ultimate General, Ultimate Admiral, and a number of other games, there appears to be a major shakeup underway. I don't know if the whole studio is going under. It might be, but I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about that because there was some stuff that was posted on Christmas Eve over on the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought's Discord. And then also, a similar post came out on the Ultimate General American Revolution's Discord, and then some information came out on the Sea Legends Discord, which is a game that was in development over at Game Labs as well. And so with the culmination of all of these things, it felt, it seems like Game Labs, if they exist, they will no longer exist in the way that we know them. So just giving you a quick rundown on what happened. On Christmas Eve, Darth Vader is his Discord handle, but it's Nick Tomatis. He was the lead designer behind Game Labs' first game, Ultimate General Gettysburg, which got a lot of very popular press. In many ways, it is a spiritual successor to Sid Meier's Gettysburg, which is, in my opinion, one of the greatest war games of all time. But Nick Tomatis, who was known as Darth, he made the Darth mods over in Total War, struck out, on his own. He was brought into Game Labs. He did not own Game Labs. He did not run Game Labs. I think there's some confusion there sometimes from folks. But he was brought into Game Labs in 2013 to make a game. He had been making popular Total War mods. And so he designed Ultimate General Gettysburg, followed that up with Ultimate General Civil War, which I think has been the best critically acclaimed game for Game Labs. And then he moved over and started working on the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts game, which is what he's been doing for the last several years. Nick posted on the Ultimate Admiral Dreadnought forum that, dear admirals and generals, I want to express my personal gratitude to everyone who supported Game Labs and me personally all of those years from the moment I began to make my own games. From all those games from which I have been the co-developer and lead designer, that being Ultimate General Gettysburg and its successful continuation, Ultimate General Civil War, up to the latest, even more successful Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts, I will remember the great times we all collaborated with passion in the forums to improve the best way possible. Please note that from December 31st, 2014, I will no longer be part of Game Labs. Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts will receive the promised last patch before this time. You will definitely enjoy it, and even more after this big update. Thank you again, and I hope to meet you soon in other game endeavors, Nick Tomatis. So that was basically his goodbye to Game Labs, which is a huge deal because he has been the lead designer on, frankly, all but one of the well-received Game Labs games. I would say the one game he wasn't involved with that was pretty well-received was an offshoot of Ultimate General and Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail, has a pretty good review score as well. But it's not just Nick leaving. And so that's what raises the question of what is going on here. Over on the Ultimate Strategy game Discord, which is really focused on Ultimate Admiral American Revolution, there was another post in the news section there by Sterner, who's actually Aleksandr Petrov, and Nick is in Greece, I believe. Aleksandr is in Ukraine. He's the CTO of Game Labs, but he also was the lead on Ultimate Admiral American Revolution or Ultimate General American Revolution and Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail, as well as I think he did some dev work on the Ultimate General games, broadly speaking. But on December 23rd, so I saw this one after I saw Nick's post, but actually, so the day before, On December 23rd, Aleksandr said that he's writing to let us know that as of December 31st, he will no longer be part of Game Labs. Rest assured, however, that you will be in good hands. I want to extend my gratitude for your support over the years. So there's a longer post, but I won't read it all. You can see it here if you like. So the CTO and one of the lead designers and then developers, Aleksandr, is leaving on December 31st. Nick Tomatis, sort of the face in many ways of the most popular Game Lab games, is leaving on December 31st. And then, to top that off, there was another piece of news, which I guess has been floating around a little while also, but I hadn't noticed it until after all of this started bubbling up. But over on the Sea Legends Discord, which Sea Legends is a upcoming game that's being developed by Game Labs. I guess originally it was scheduled for a Q3 2024 release. That didn't happen, but it is being developed by Game Labs. It's a single-player simulation, kind of like a single-player, almost looks like a single-player version of Naval Action, which was Naval Action was sort of one of the early Game Lab games. It's got the most Steam reviews of any of their games. It was kind of a massive multiplayer online game in the Caribbean, Age of Sail type stuff, although not like traditional MMO, but just like you sail around, you can fight humans, you can fight AI. But Sea Legends is a game that's being developed, a single-player pirate Caribbean naval game, and that one was being developed by Game Labs, but over on the Sea Legends Discord, Shipyard Master, who I have no idea who he is, posted on the 21st of December, so we're kind of walking back in dates here, starting very soon, Sea Legends, its development, and support will be taken over by me from Game Labs. So, CTO and one of the main developers leaving Game Labs, face of Game Labs' most successful games and lead designer leaving Game Labs, and probably the highest profile game that is in development over at Game Labs is being shifted to another company or another person away from Game Labs. So that's everything we know publicly about what's happening at Game Labs. But that's a pretty big deal, right? Like, two of the biggest names at the company are leaving, and the biggest upcoming game is leaving. What's left, right? Like, the posts from Aleksandr made it sound like there will still be some patch support for Ultimate Admiral Revolutions. So maybe Game Labs isn't totally dead, but I don't know what's left. Like, Game Labs had 30 people. 3 people leaving doesn't mean the company's gone. So this was all very strange to me. I wasn't entirely sure what was going on, and so I did a little bit of additional digging, and I think we may have a clear picture. Game Labs, first off, Game Labs is not an independent studio. When they were founded in 2013, they were. When they released Gettysburg and Civil War, they were. But in 2021, kind of around the time frame that Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts was being worked on and Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail was close to coming out, at least into early access. Around that time, Game Labs was acquired by a company called Stillfront Group, which is a large Swedish company that typically buys mobile developers, gives them the money they need so they can develop their games and then publishes them. So that felt like an odd fit because Game Labs had never released much on mobile. They had released Gettysburg on mobile, which did pretty well over there. Several thousand reviews. So it must have sold decently as sort of an add-on over there to their their bottom line. But it felt like an odd fit because, again, Stillfront really buys mobile studios, and I think a game that had like a Property Brothers home building, like flipping game, but like they do all these kind of like story mobile games, Empire, like Supremacy 1914, like these mobile whatever. So it felt like a weird fit. anyway, they bought Game Labs in 2021. And so with all of these announcements coming out, it's kind of like, all right, like what's going on? Are they going bankrupt? Are they going under? Like this seems strange that kind of the biggest faces of Game Labs are leaving, that games in development are no longer going to be in development with Game Labs. It felt like the company was going bankrupt, but they're owned by this big company, which is financially very sound. So what gives? So I started digging through Stillfront's press releases, and I think we've got a kind of an idea of what's going on here. Now, first off, Game Labs, when they were acquired, had 30 employees. They were a Delaware corporation, which is kind of funny, but they were actually, the majority of them were based in Ukraine. Nick, I believe, was in Greece, but it was a game that was mostly based in Eastern Europe. They were acquired by Stillfront in 2021 for $32 million. They had about 30 employees at the time. So losing 3 people doesn't necessarily mean anything about, if you really have 30 employees. But I have a hunch there's more going on to this, because there have been a couple press releases over at Stillfront that have certainly indicated that there are big changes going on within Stillfront's whole company, not just Game Labs. And here's what's on the screen here. There was a press release in September that I think should have set off some alarm bells, and might have if maybe if war games and strategy games were larger, if gaming media wasn't getting eviscerated, and investigative journalism isn't so much out there as much anymore. But Stillfront announced that in September 10th of this year, Stillfront said Stillfront is increasing its focus on key franchises, which is definitely not Game Labs based on their balance sheet. Game Labs never comes up in their quarterly results. They are not. They talk about several big games. They never talk about Game Labs in there. But it says Stillfront is increasing its focus on key franchises and addressing low-performing games. That's the key word there. They're addressing low-performing games, which is a key lever to improve organic growth while also reducing costs. These optimization activities are expected to be fully implemented by the fourth quarter of 2025 and are expected to generate annual cost savings of 200 to 250 MSEK, which I think translates to around 23 million US dollars when you convert SEK, which is the Swedish krona, I believe, to US dollars. In that press release, they also said streamlining the organizational structure by removing central management layers, thereby reducing the number of positions in Stillfront's group management from 11 to 7. Okay, so they're reducing the number of senior leaders. Remember that Aleksandr is the CTO of Game Labs. Game Labs obviously kind of still operated semi-independently. But then they also said optimizing and concentrating on game portfolio by addressing smaller being the key word there, and lower performing games to increase focus on Stillfront's key franchises. Additionally, activities to coordinate and refine Stillfront's shared services, such as marketing and payments, have been launched to create more synergies and effective gains in the core business. So effectively, as of September, Stillfront announced, hey, we're going to save a bunch of money by cutting back some of the fat, trimming some of the fat, cutting games that aren't performing well. And when you look at the review numbers, and granted, numbers are a little bit lower because games are newer, they haven't had as long to be reviewed, but when you look at reviewer numbers, Game Lab's biggest games ever in terms of review numbers. I don't like looking at concurrent viewers because, maybe for Naval Action it does, but for most games, most of their games are buy and forget, right? Like buy and play and that's it. You're not going to buy it multiple times. So it doesn't matter if no one's playing Ultimate General Gettysburg anymore. If 20,000 people bought it, that's 20,000 sales. If no one's playing it 5 years later, it doesn't matter if a game is quote unquote dead. But so Ultimate General Gettysburg had like 2,700 or so Steam reviews. Ultimate General Civil War had, I think it was 2,300. Ultimate General American Civil War had about 7,500 reviews. That means they sold a lot more copies than that, but those are the number of people who actually left a review. Naval Action, it's free to play right now, so that might skew things, but Naval Action had 12,000 reviews. Those were their first 3 games. 2014, 2017, 2019 are the Steam dates. Then Ultimate Admiral Age of Sail 2021 had 1,700. So a big drop off, but still kind of in the Gettysburg range-ish. And also it still had mostly positive reviews. This Land Is My Land came out, which was kind of a controversial Native American, almost like Red Dead Redemption, but if you had no budget. That had 4,000 reviews. Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts had 5,400 reviews. But both of those games had mixed reviews. So, still solid review numbers compared to what they were doing before, but also a big drop-off from Ultimate General American, Civil War. Then Twisted Paths of Renown came out earlier this year. 390 reviews and mixed. Ultimate General American Revolution just came out, but 500 reviews and mixed. Every single game they have released in the last 3 years has mixed reviews. Not a single positive review. To compare that, Age of Sail, mostly positive. American Civil War, very positive. Gettysburg, very positive. So a big drop-off in player sentiment. American Revolution and Twisted Paths of Renown don't look like they're even going to crack 1,000 reviews. Like, this is the direction they are going is not the right direction from a public perception. It would appear from a sales perspective. And it would also appear that, like, if this company, if Stillfront is saying we are going to focus on, high-performing games that are key to our bottom lines, and Game Labs literally never comes up in the quarterly results for them, that doesn't bode well. Their interim third quarter results, which came out, basically said that in Q3 they were seeing a considerable increase to the cost of users to gain users. Now, this doesn't necessarily translate to their PC game because their PC market is such a small percentage of their income relative to the mobile gaming, but they did say that, hey, users are getting more expensive to acquire, and as a result, their EBITDA, and I say "k" because most U.S. companies use EBITDA, EBITDA, which stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, amortization, and then they also use C at the end when coronavirus, so impacts on the the coronavirus has had on their ability effectively to generate money, right? It's a metric that measures a company's ability to generate cash flow, so money coming in, not necessarily profitability, because there's all those things like interest, tax, depreciation that all influences profitability. But EBITDA is really a measurement on how good a company is at being able to bring money in, to generate money coming in. And so as a result of the increased cost of users, their EBITDA fell by about 24 million SEK year over year. So Q3, it was 409 million of last year. Q3 of this year was 385 million. Companies usually do year over year comparisons for quarters because, like Q4, for example, holidays, it's better to compare to last holiday than it is to Q3 when there aren't holidays. So just whatever. I'm not trying to go deep into the world of finance here, but effectively they saw a drop in their, EBITDA this year versus last year. They predicted it would be about 33 million. It looks like it was less than that. It looks like it was about, 24 million. So not as much as forecasted originally, but the company's still profitable. They're still buying back stock. They've opened up a new revolving credit line. They are, they issued some bonds as well. So they have money and they are buying back stock every single quarter without pause. So they have cash on hand. That being said, in the Q3 interim report, they also did say, we are accelerating our actions to reduce costs. In September, with a clear ambition to enhance transparency, accountability, and operational efficiency across the organization, we announced the optimization of Stillfront's operations into 3 business areas effective January 1st of 2025. Now think about that. Nick and Aleksandr announced they are leaving the day before this new operating structure goes into effect. So that feels very likely that Stillfront is downsizing Game Labs considerably. So they are putting this new organizational structure in place on January 1st, the day after. And again, these Nick and Aleksandr aren't big guys in this company. Game Labs is a very small fish in this company. But the fact that they are leaving, it sounds like layoffs hit Stillfront, probably broad. And these guys were affected by this. They also said that these savings will come in effect partially in the fourth quarter. The full effect will be felt in the first quarter of 2025. So they're accelerating from their original plan of by the end of next year to begin immediately saving costs in Q1. You know, they said these savings are achieved mainly by reducing staff numbers, in particular at Storm 8, which they're a much larger mobile studio. At one point, they had over 200 employees. I can't find anything more recent about. I think the last I saw is they were at about 110. So even so, much larger than Game Labs. But again, Game Labs obviously being affected by this. As more actions are coming in the coming quarters, we expect the impact to increase, further supporting our cash flow generation. The new organizational model communicated in September will allow for faster decision-making and increase focus of our best talent in our core business, our key game franchises. This will be combined with strengthening services to support core game teams. We are moving games that are in decline to lower cost locations, as well as addressing low performing games. So I've been talking for 20 minutes, guys. You're probably bored to tears if you're still listening, but it sounds pretty clear to me that Stillfront is, I don't know if they're killing Game Labs. Maybe we'll find out more soon, but they're getting rid of two of the most high-profile Game Labs people. They are getting rid of a game that is in development. They are focused on reducing cost by laying people off. That's what this wording here says. By moving games to lower-cost locations. But Game Labs is already primarily based in Eastern Europe, which is a lower-cost place. There's a reason that like CD Projekt Red and a lot of other companies are based in Eastern Europe. It's cheaper to make games there than it is to make games in the US. But they're moving teams to lower cost areas. They're addressing underperforming games. If any, we talked about those review numbers for the Game Lab games. This is a lot of, if I was a writer, it would be a lot of ink spilt talking about the same thing. But it seems pretty clear to me that Game Labs, as we know it, is dead. They canceled in development games. They pushed out final update patches for Ultimate General American Revolution and Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. General might get a few update patches, I'm guessing, by whatever team they have left servicing this, but no major content, almost certainly. And yeah, so I can't say definitively Game Labs is dead, but it sounds to me like Game Labs is dead. Like, we don't know that. It hasn't been announced. But based on this restructuring information, based on what we know, it sounds to me like Game Labs is dead. And that's really sad. For me, anyway, because Game Labs, I know some of their games have had a rocky development. They're primarily based in Eastern Europe. Most of their founders were based in Ukraine. Little war started there shortly after Stillfront acquired them. So they have had things outside their control that certainly have impacted them. And they have had troubled developments with naval action, with dreadnoughts. I think maybe some of the games went into early access too soon. Part of me wonders if, especially after the Stillfront acquisition, if some of that was based on the need to get money coming in to justify their existence to Stillfront. But Game Labs has made two of the best real-time tactical war games in Gettysburg and Civil War of the last 20 years. So to see a company like that start off so promisingly and then fall off so firmly And even Age of Sail, I enjoyed that. I reviewed it with 3 Moves Ahead. I was on a podcast over there for it. Like they have, and American Revolution had some really great ideas and concepts, and I like parts of the game. I think there are areas where it needs more work, but to see a studio like this get kneecapped, whether they're still alive in some form or not, I don't know. But to see them get kneecapped in this way is really sad. I guess we'll have to wait to see what additional information we find out. Frankly, I don't even know that Game Labs is going to warrant an announcement in the Q4, report that Stillfront puts out. I'll take a look and see what they say, but it certainly looks to me like this is the end of Game Labs as we know it, and maybe altogether. Maybe they're moving some of the support operations under another studio. I don't know. I have no inside information on that. But it's a sad day for strategy game folks, I think, to be hearing all this news. And, I certainly would be excited to learn what Nick might be working on in the future. I imagine, the folks who are higher up and who might have been there originally probably were well compensated with the acquisition. So maybe they at least got to walk away with some cash because of the acquisition. But yeah, I guess we'll see what comes from this, what we find out. We might not find out anything for years. But it's a sad day for someone who at one point in time, around the time Civil War had been out for a while, a quarter of my videos were Ultimate General games. And, for something that started so quickly and so promisingly, I think it's just a lesson of maybe a cautionary tale on how aggressively you use early access. Maybe the reality of getting acquired by a larger studio is if you don't deliver results quickly, you may not exist within a couple of years. Regardless, it's something we'll be following. I'd love to hear your thoughts below in the comments. And I'm sorry for rambling. This could have been a 5-minute video, but I hope you guys did enjoy. Let me know your thoughts below. And until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you for watching, and I'm out.